Kusama Parachains are back. The next wave of auctions starts on September 1st, and it's shaping up to be quite a competition. Today, we spoke with Ingo Rübe from KILT to talk about their project and why they think they should be considered a contender for a coveted Parachain slot. Join us as we lift the kilt and reveal how they plan to change identity and trust for the future. Hi there, and welcome to the Parachain Auctions podcast hosted by Kraken. I'm Brian Hoffman, Crypto Platform Product Lead, and I'm glad you could join me out here on the cutting edge of crypto technologies. On this show, you'll hear from leaders and innovators around the world building parachains on Polkadot and Kusama. Tune in for insights from the best and brightest about their new projects. Whether this is the first you've heard of parachains or you're a DeFi aficionado, come with us behind the scenes as we explore the technology of the future today. Today, we have with us Ingo Rübe, founder and CEO of BOTLabs, the company that develops the Kilt Protocol. And this one's a really exciting one for me. I have spent over a decade in my past working on identity and access management, technology. And so welcome to the show, Ingo. Really excited to get into this.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So, I think you and I actually have spoken before. You may not remember this, like maybe several months ago when we were kind of kicking off our Parachain auctions process, talking with the different teams who were looking to do Parachain auctions. This was one of the ones that I really enjoyed the conversation around. I have a personal passion around identity, trust, all of the things that Kilt is trying to accomplish. And I was just wondering, just to level set everything, maybe you could just give me a little bit of a background dump on, who you are and how you came to be interested in this area.
Yeah, sure. I'm a computer scientist, so this is what makes you interested in blockchains probably. I started actually my career in the 90s of the last century with my first startup, which I sold in 2000. And then I did something really unusual for startup founders. I made an industrial career. So I went to work for big industry and made a career there. Ended up as the CTO for a big company here in Germany. And then I somehow got infected with this blockchain virus around Ethereum in 2015 or 2016, though. So this time. And as the CTO of a huge company, actually, I went to the group board because that was my job to tell them there's something new coming up, which is really, really important, which is going to affect any industry. And I told them we have to do something in this blockchain area. And then they said, okay, this is too complicated for us, but we are happy to found a company with you. Just do it. And this is how it started. And then I had the enormous luck, I must say, to be able to devote 100% of my time pretty early, actually, into blockchain. And this was extremely nice for me because it's so various. It's so many different things that you can learn every day there, and I think it's a great luxury to be able to do this. And yeah, that's basically the background, and have been into blockchains ever since. And and here we are.
Well, I'm glad that you got support from your business to work on that. I remember hearing people say, "Why do we need blockchain? We have LDAP directories, we have Oracle databases. We don't need that." But obviously, we do. I think that you guys are working on some really important stuff that's kind of ushering in the next evolution of this. So, Kilt, what is it? Give me just what is the synopsis? Can you tell me in one sentence what it is?
In one sentence, it's probably a blockchain protocol for digital identities, I would say. That's to make it very, very short. And maybe some background on that, on why we do stuff like that. It is when we were looking at what blockchains could actually be useful for, we found pretty fast that there's huge problems with digital identity. We do have physical identity with driver's licenses, passports, and all that stuff. That works quite well, actually. So it works nicely, and it has been working there for hundreds of years. So this is a system which works nicely. But when you look into the digital world, it's completely broken. In the digital world, your digital identity is basically something in a database with Facebook or something, right? That is not nice, because the physical identity is something that you own. This is something that you have in your wallet, and we are actually taking a step back in sovereignty for the users when we go into the digital world. And this is exactly what happened with all the LDAPs and the Oracle databases. And this is a huge issue. This is not only an issue for persons, but also when we think of the digitization of the world, then it's an issue also for services and for IoT devices and all that stuff. They can't have all their identities in Facebook. So we're not fit for the future. And we saw that there's actually a huge problem that we have to solve, that someone has to solve. And we were looking into if blockchain could be helpful there, and we found that it could be really helpful there. And then we said, okay, this is probably one of the most interesting application areas where you could work on. And this is why we decided to build KILT.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I mean, having kind of gone through my career, seeing like very centralized databases, and then wanting to, as web services and APIs and all these things kind of came to fruition, and we needed to have access control and trust around multiple organizations. There was the move to like kind of federated trust, and it's just very clunky. And then there was like this need to be centralized but not be centralized. And I think the blockchain kind of is that next wave of what that is. And it's interesting to see how you guys are portraying it, or how it should be. So let's talk a little bit about, you chose to build on the Polkadot ecosystem. So what did you see in that over all the other blockchain options? I have some thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours.
So the initial reason why we actually went to Polkadot was that when we decided that we want to do identity on blockchain, we first went to possible customers and people who would want to use that, which was governments and industry and so on, because they all have the same issues, right? And then we talked to them and explained them what permissionless blockchains are. And then I said, well, this permissionless blockchain thing is actually what we want, because it's a trustless system. And this is actually which is really good in there. And then the second question was, okay, and how much does it cost to store a credential? And then we said, we don't know. If we build it, for example, on Ethereum, it's a permissionless system. You never know what the gas price is, right? It can be $1 today and $100 tomorrow. And then everybody basically says, well, thank you, here's the door, because how can you build a system where you want to sell your credentials when you don't know the production cost, right? So this is impossible. So either you get a permission blockchain, which you don't want, because then you could actually also use an Oracle database again, or you have a permissionless blockchain, and then you have the problem that you don't know what the price is. So we're trying to solve this dilemma. And this is when we came around to Polkadot, because in Polkadot, you are not the relay chain, you are just a parachain to the system, and you get the security from the relay chain. And that means that you can somehow control the gas cost that you produce. Not 100%, but you can level it out to something which is in a range. And so you still need some spam protection, so you can't make zero, right? But and if there's lots of spam, then it has to get a little bit more expensive. But you can level those things out and can say it's the gas cost is between this and this. And this was the reason why we initially went to Polkadot, because no one else had a solution for that. And when we arrived there, that was in October 2018, when we started working together with the people from Parity there, then it turned out that this community is actually brilliant. There's so many interesting and intelligent people in there, and everybody loves what they're doing. And there's not so, in bigger ecosystems, you find a lot of people who are a little bit of what you would call scammy or whatever. And in the Polkadot ecosystem, at this time, it was like everyone's just going towards a great vision of the Web 3.0. And this is where we really felt home. And everyone was really, really helpful. And as the ecosystem is still so small, it is so easy to just get connections to others. So I can just call up any CEO of the Polkadot ecosystem and say, I have an idea, let's work together on that. And they will most probably say, wow, this is hopefully a great idea, and let's do that. Or maybe they say, can you call next month because we're just launching a Parachain. But but this is how this thing works. And a fresh new ecosystem full of intelligent people is actually, so we came for the gas cost and we stayed for the community, you could
say. So we got that going on. Maybe you can explain a little bit of the situation there, and like because I feel like it does seem like what you guys are building would be something, like a public common good that would stretch across multiple parachains, be useful in many different contexts for different other teams. So what's the thinking around that?
I think it's not really necessary to be common good. Our goal is rather to be useful for many parachains, for many other parachains. So what we're building here in the Polkadot ecosystem is actually trying to create value together. And that means there's some DeFi projects, there's some security projects, there's some different things, and those projects should use each other. And not everyone can be common good or should be common good. So I think what we want to become is actually the fundamental layer for digital identity inside the Polkadot ecosystem, but also outside of that. And we will use services from other blockchains. Like, for example, we're going to use Akala, of course, for many things. And we're also going to work together with the Moonbeam guys because then it really just fits together. And what we hope to get in return is that they use our system. And then the Polkadot ecosystem starts actually growing because it's the sum of it is bigger than the single pieces, right? And this is the great strength inside this ecosystem. And I don't think there's a need for having this as a common good chain, at least not now. That can change in a couple of years. We don't know. So we don't know how the future is going. But right now we are just a normal, typical parachain candidate, and we feel like that.
What is KILT named after? How did you guys come to that name anyway?
So when we talked about identity, we were also talking about not disclosing everything about your identity and how we technically could manage that. And this is what the KILT system can actually do in a very nice way. So you're not disclosing everything. You just you can choose which part you want to disclose. And this is a little bit like a KILT, because when you were a KILT, then I would assume you're probably from Scotland. And if I'm also from Scotland, I can read the patterns of your KILT. I would also assume which clan you belong to, because the patterns show that. But still, I wouldn't see all of your identity. Obviously, there's some parts that were hidden by the KILT, and that's the purpose of the KILT. And that's why we thought that's actually a very good picture, actually.
I know what a kilt hides in real life, and I don't know if it needs to be revealed all the time. but
only if the user chooses to, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Well, that's thanks for the explanation. So let's talk a little bit about the project in itself in a little bit more detail. I actually spent some time just looking through the white paper, and I was pleased to see the reference to USV's FAT protocol theory. I remember when Joel Monegro and their team were thinking through that. So it's great to see it referenced later on in other work. So maybe you can just help explain the protocol itself. I know it's super complicated. There's a lot involved with it, but maybe like from a high level for our audience, to just kind of walk through, like, what does it look like to use the KILT protocol?
Yeah, so it's nice to start maybe with how it works in the physical world. So in the physical world, how do you use credentials? In the physical world, it normally starts with an identifier. An identifier is something that is not made central. That's something that really belongs to you. That could be your face, for example. Your face is not issued by the government. It is somehow your face. You do it yourself, or your fingerprint, or your name. All these
that we
things
know of.
those things are not issued by big companies or governments. So this is an identifier. So you have that in the physical world. And to this identifier, you normally attach credentials. Credentials are all things where your name is on, where your face is on, or where your fingerprint is on. So that could be your library card, that could be your passport, that could be anything that gives you a right or states that you can do something or you have some kind of knowledge or whatever. And these credentials are normally issued by trusted entities. So a trusted entity for the driver's license would be the driver's license department, and for the library card it would be the library. And then you hold your credential. So your credential is not in their possession; it's in your possession, and you decide when to show it, to whom to show it, and why to show it, and which part even. You can put your finger on part of it, and then you have selective disclosure. And then you show this to someone we call a verifier, and the verifier trusts not necessarily you, but the verifier trusts the trusted entity. So when I go into a bar with my driver's license and to check that I'm 18 or so, at the bouncer, then I can show my driver's license, and the bouncer will look at the driver's license and will see, okay, this is issued by an entity which normally issues driver's licenses. The identifier is okay, looks at the picture, looks at my face, obviously the same, and lets me in. So this is the process. And this process is really, really nice because it is very, very hacker proof, because stealing my purse or my wallet with some credential doesn't make sense. It would make sense if there would be one wallet where all the credentials of all the people are in, and this is what Facebook and Google and all the centralized services look like. So it's totally because I own it, and there's no reason to actually attack this. So this is a great thing. The other great thing is that the driver's license department will never find out in which bar I went, because there's no technical connection between the bouncer at the bar and the driver's license department. It's just a trust connection, right? Because of the credential. And this is actually it's brilliant, the system. And what we're doing is we're just bringing this system into the digital world. So we have the three roles: the claimer, the attester, and the verifier. So the claimer wants a credential, goes to the attester, says, can you please give me this credential? And then the attester checks if the claimer deserves the credential, issues it, signs it, puts a hash on the blockchain of it, and issues the credential itself to the user, the claimer. The claimer then owns this credential and can choose to show it to different verifiers. So if a verifier asks you for a certain credential, the user, the claimer, signs this credential with his DID. So with the decentralized identifier, this is an identifier he made himself on his computers, not issued by any central entity or so that the verifier can be sure to talk to the right person. That's basically the picture, right? So that represents the picture on the credential, and then sends the credential or part of the credential, and the verifier can then check if he, by the signatures that are in, check if this was issued by a trusted entity actually, and can also check on the blockchain if this thing is still valid. So this is, in very short talking, what we do. So we bring the process which we have for 1,000 years in the physical world. We just bring this to the digital world.
Yeah, I think just listening to you kind of walk through what trust and identity is in the real world, it just illuminates how much better it could be, because of these systems. I mean, we're living in a very connected world, and yet we're still, you explained like the bouncer, analogy where someone's handing like a driver's license that's been issued, and they look at that and trust it. But in a way, I mean, they still have to deal with forgeries and counterfeit licenses. It's still up to the bouncer, who may not be an expert at identifying these things, to vet this credential. Whereas in a connected system, kind of some of the stuff that you guys are proposing, where you have attestations, encryption, cryptography, I mean, all these things make it way more rock solid than just kind of what we see
Exactly.
in the real
It
world.
gets much safer. Yeah, it gets much safer in this way than it was before. It's not going to be so easy to forge credentials. So this is not going to work because you need the cryptographics of the cryptographic private key, basically, of the tester to do something like that. And so this is, I think these examples, they open up how many use cases are actually out there, because you could use this for many things. Like think of education, for example, right? So when I go and apply for a job somewhere, I hand in some documents. Hey, I can do all them with Photoshop, basically, right? And no one is ever going to check them, right? And so all these things will be much safer because it can be seen on the blockchain if this is a valid certificate and if it is issued by the correct entity. And so it will make a lot of things much safer in the future.
So one question I have for you is, I think that there has been an increased push on like kind of more sensitive and higher security situations to have kind of multi-factor credentials. In this case, we've kind of just talked a little bit about like maybe soft digital credentials, but like, have you guys thought about how like hardware devices or other kind of multi-factor authentication might fit into this whole protocol and like where that would connect?
Yeah, there's great ideas, and we have been working together with a company there, which unfortunately somehow didn't survive the corona. But we're looking for new companies there. So what would be really cool is when you think of smart cards are basically active devices, right? And what they can do is they can handle private keys. They can actually do encryption on card, and you can handle them with you can open them, for example, with your fingerprint or with a pin or both or so, and then these things could actually do encryption on your card, encrypt your credentials. And send them away via Bluetooth or near-field communication. Those things are actually very helpful. You could even have your crypto wallet on them as well, but you don't have your. But you always need, for example, your fingerprint to actually build your key on that. So there's many nice things that would be possible. That's for persons, but also I think that a lot of devices are actually getting active these days. Think of all the little Raspberry Pis that you have around the house. So we are right now in a very interesting project with the German Energy Association, which is a government body, where we put KILT nodes on smart meters. Smart meters are basically the things in your household which count how much electricity you produce or consume. And when you open them, you will find a Raspberry Pi normally. And of course, this is an active device, and they can also they can even act as a blockchain node. So we managed to get a KILT node on a Raspberry Pi, which makes it really powerful. So there's so many things which are going to come up. I think that IoT devices is for us the far bigger market in the end than people. So and far bigger, I mean, it's probably 99% going to be devices and services and 1% people.
Yeah, I think I've had people ask like, how do you know when a project is good? I think you have to at least have it running on a Raspberry Pi to be a legit project, I think. So one of the you in a presentation I saw you speak a little bit about other organizations that have been trying to tackle decentralized identity for a while now. You brought up I know BOTLabs has been doing some work in this area, and the W3. But maybe you could explain a little bit about like what is a DID, a decentralized identifier, and like what has kind of been like the most cutting edge, latest stuff going on in that realm right now.
Yeah, so the great thing about DID is that it is a standard. And I'm not really sure if it's 100% standardized already because it's still in the making. But the cool thing is about how it started. Because we saw, a lot of people saw, it was not only us, a lot of people saw that identity in the internet is somehow wrong and it's somehow in the big for companies right there. And so how will we tackle that? How will we repair it? So if the small KILT protocol comes from the outside, we'll probably not be successful. And this is what other companies also thought. And then we say, okay, if we want to actually address this problem, then we have to do it together, and we have to do it with a standard so that we can all understand each other. So if I produce a DID, somebody else, some other project must be able to read this thing. And more than 200 companies gathered around that problem in the Decentralized Identity Foundation, small companies like us, but also bigger ones like IBM and Microsoft. So we're all working together, and we're all agreeing on what is a DID. And the other cool thing about this is that we managed to get the W3C to standardize that thing for us, because they have a lot of trust in the world, because they brought us things like HTTP, which we use every day. That's a nice combination, actually. So we're building the standard, and they're standardizing it for us. And a DID is actually it is a pretty simple thing. It consists of a DID string, which is basically a public key. So it is very much blockchainy here, and also it says DID, and then the KILT, and then the method, which is in our case KILT, and then it says a public key. And this thing is linked together with a DID document, and this DID document includes things about you and things about you that you want to share, and this is normally public keys again. So it will be there will be a signing key in there. There will be an encryption key in there, and this is all put together, and then a service endpoint or many service endpoints where you can actually be reached. So where you, for example, that could be some port where you deliver a service or something, and this document can then be published or not published. And you own the private key to all that, right? That's the big thing about it. So you actually make your public information public with it if you want. But you can, and as it is public, other people can see, okay, this is your private key for this, and this is your private key for that. And then they can look in this document, and if they want to have a communication with you, they can just encrypt things with your public key, and then they can be sure that you and that only you can read it. And they can also get messages from you, which you sign with your signing keys, and then they can be sure it was signed by you. So that is the basic idea behind that. And then it becomes, from there on, it becomes a little bit complicated with key rotations and stuff like that. But the basic functionality is just this. This is what we agreed on, how we build those things. And there's this Decentralized Identity Foundation. They run servers called the Universal Resolver, and the Universal Resolver understands all the different methods how a DID is produced. So when we as KILT, for example, we upload a small blob with code in there how our DID method works, and all the other projects do the same thing. And this is how it becomes interoperable. So if I have a DID, if you made a DID with KILT, you can just go to another project from IBM or Microsoft which uses DID and bring them your DID string, and they will call the method from KILT, from the Universal Resolver, and they will be able to see your DID document. And this is the idea. So it's interoperable. There's hundreds of companies building on that. There's, I think, at least 50 different methods which have been uploaded yet, and they're all compatible to each other. And this is how we have a chance to actually make things better, even though there are huge companies we have to work against.
Well, it's good. I mean, it helps us potentially fulfill the vision of taking our rewards account from McDonald's over to the bank and being able to use that as well in an interoperable way. So one thing you hit on there was like things are pretty complex. You said like it's, you know, kind of par for the course in the crypto space to have this public key. The complexity here, I think one of the reasons why people use Facebook authentication so much is because it is pretty much dead simple. They already have it. They already have an account. They can use it anywhere. How do you guys think about like the end user experience around all this? I mean, I know it's super complex and there's a lot of moving pieces, but like to the end user, to the person that you're pitching this to as the future of identity and trust, like what does this look like for them?
Yeah,
How will it look?
that's a very good question, and this is something where we think of all the time. Basically, it will not be possible to change or to repair the internet if the user experience is not okay. So when you look at how if you take I don't know, a cold wallet or something, uh, uh, making keys on that is still, I don't feel well with it. So
Yeah.
right, and this is why you have exchanges, for example, so to make the user experience better. So what we're thinking about a lot is actually how can we put good user experience on top of credentials. And as soon as the KILT network is live, we're going to launch a couple of applications here, which actually can do that, and where we have the feeling that the user experience is almost as good or even in some ways better than with the connect with Facebook button. And this is exactly where we have to go, right? This is the competition. The competition is not one over who has the most beautiful technology. It is one over convenience, right? So we have to bring convenience to the users. We will never expose them to public keys or private keys or stuff. They may not know stuff like that. When are going to publish the KILT wallet probably in a couple of weeks, which is a wallet which holds not only coins but holds also credentials. So it's like a real wallet, right? Not only having coins in but also having your driver's license in. And this thing never says anything about private keys or public keys or so. It just talks about identities. And of course, on the network level, it sends DIDs and stuff like that. And it asks for other services, for service endpoints and stuff like that. But the user shall never see that. And this is actually when we look at like 20 or 30 years ago, how the internet worked. So I'm of this age, I still know internet works. But when the internet became public, actually, nobody ever cared how the internet works. Just works somehow. And then on top of that, there's applications, there's the Facebooks, there's the Google, but there's also browsers and stuff like that, which are just working very seamlessly into your normal life. And this is where we have to go in the blockchain too. And it's okay that we're not still there, because blockchain is still just 10 years old. And when the internet was 10 years old, the normal Joe public out there couldn't use it, right? So let's be a bit patient and let's work on those applications. And I think we will bring some things to the table which will be interesting, and at least for discussion, but maybe will also be used by a big audience. And this is where it actually starts. But we have to get away from this very scientific. So, of course, you have to click here and there, and then you have to just add a nonce to it, and then you're happy. So no one knows what a nonce is. And we're not out here to teach them.
Yeah. Not everybody has to be a computer scientist to use these products, we hope. So we could go on days and days. I would love to keep talking to you for hours about how this all works, but this is the Parachain Auctions podcast, so I'd like to talk a little bit about KILT's plans for the future. So everybody that's been listening to the podcast is well aware that the reason why we do the auctions and the crowd loans happen is so that the community can support these projects and get them access to the Parachain slots that they need. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about like how you guys plan to go forward on this. Now, the first wave of auctions already happened. You guys didn't participate in the first 5. You chose to come in on this next round. Maybe you could share a little bit of that, why you decided to do that, and what your strategy and plans are going to be for this upcoming auction.
Yeah, so why didn't we join the first one? We thought it would be nice to first have a look.
That's fair. That's fair.
This is what we did, and then we thought, shall we join this like in the 5th or 4th or something? And it was obvious that there would be a big battle, and well, you don't want to join a big battle if you can avoid it. And then we said, okay, then we're just going for number 6. It's probably coming in a month or two, and obviously it's coming in a month or two. So good guess. And yeah, what's the strategy? The strategy is, I think we already published that there's going to be, so we have set aside a couple of KILT coins, which are under governance control, and governance can decide to hand them over to the supporters, and this is going to be 4.5 million KILT coins, and they will be divided through all the people who participate by how much they actually voted with, and yeah, that's basically it. So that's the strategy. We're going to set our module live pretty soon, so it will be accessible. People can vote for us then with their Kusamas, and we hope that we win a very early slot there in the next auction. Yeah, that's basically the strategy.
Yeah, that would be nice to get it done early. I know we talked to some of the teams who were making it into the the subsequent rounds, and they're getting a little nervous, about whether or not they were going to secure the slot. Seems like there's going to be quite a bit of competition. A bunch more teams are going to be up in here. A couple from the first round that didn't make it. But I know that KILT has had a lot of publicity. I've been noticing a lot of the social media buzz around the project. That's pretty exciting. I've also seen that you guys are planning perhaps some collaborations with some of the other teams. Maybe you want to share a little bit about some future plans, that maybe some potential for some collabs.
Oh yeah, there's a lot basically. Take all of them. So what are we really excited about? Of course, so I think what's really important is that we are part of the ecosystem. So when you play in Polkadot world, you don't play alone. You have to be a team player, otherwise it just won't work. Right, so you can't be alone as a parachain. That doesn't produce any value. It only produces value when you start putting things together which are more than the sum of them. And well, we are talking with. Basically, almost everyone, I would say. We just yesterday we just talked with Centrifuge, which is one of the which is also, they are also going for the next 5 slots. We're talking with Phala, of course, because Phala is a really great example, I would say, because this is adjacent technology. So we are both in the anonymity, but we don't do the same thing, right? But when we do it together, then then they get better and we get better, and this is actually the perfect thing to work together on. Of course, we're working together with the guys from Subsocial, which is a really nice team. They're not yet up for the auctions, I would say. We are working also outside the ecosystem with Debio. We are working with BitCountry, or starting to work with BitCountry. There's so many collaborations that we have started or are just starting, that it feels for me like it's really an ecosystem which is growing together, and there's more and more coming in. It's not only we calling everyone, hey, can you please work together with us? It's also the others calling us, can we do some cool stuff together? That really that's a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, that sounds really great. I completely agree with you on the Phala thing too. We did a podcast with them, and as they were talking, I could definitely think about the different synergies you guys would probably have technology wise. So you mentioned that you guys kind of sat out the first round to kind of see how things shook out, and the Kusama slogan is like, expect chaos. How do you guys how have you approached the difference between Kusama and Polkadot? I mean, are you guys deciding to do a Polkadot crowd loan as well and go for a slot there? I mean, do you treat how you interact with Kusama differently than you plan to treat Polkadot, or is it similar?
Yeah, that's a little bit special maybe about KILT. So there will be only one KILT. A KILT coin is always a KILT coin, no matter on which relay chain it works. There's many other projects which do the new stuff here, and then they move the more stable stuff to Polkadot and stuff like that. We decided against that. We think that we will just mature on Kusama. So we are only a Kusama chain for now. And when this project gets adopted by more and more partners and gets more and more functionality and gets more stable, then it will be like a very stable thing, which is hopefully the identity layer for the whole ecosystem and beyond. And in this case, we're going to move the whole thing over to Polkadot. So this is the plan. And we also plan to not go well, we are going to the auctions, of course, but we plan to do this in a very different way because what we are planning, so in the first 5 years, the treasury of KILT is going to collect or going to mint a lot of KILT coins. And those KILT coins will be, when this is technically possible, right now it isn't, but wait for Akala and what's coming up. When this is technologically possible, then we will, the governance itself will subsequently exchange those KILTs into dots and hold the dots on the KILT blockchain, and then on its own start bidding for Parachain slots with Polkadot, which is years away from now. But this is the plan. And when the Parachain slot for Polkadot is won, then the whole system is migrated over from Kusama to Polkadot, and the Polkadot chain stops, and all the balances and all the credentials and all the things that were on the chain are just moved over. That's that.
Well, that sounds like a very ambitious plan, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all happens. So what our tradition on the podcast is we always ask our guests what is their thoughts on the chaos score. I don't know if you're familiar with the chaos score, but the chaos score is 1 to 10 rating on how chaotic the entire process has been for you and your team. So we'd love to hear from you. What would you give your experience in terms of a chaos score?
Probably a 3, because it wasn't really chaotic. Sometimes communication is a little bit, wow, this happened. But from a technological side, I think that, well, we knew that not everything would work, but it was possible for us to run on test nets like West End, and the people were extremely responsive. So when we had problems, we always had people to talk to. They solved the problems together with us. Sometimes the problems were in our chain, sometimes the problems were in the relay chain. So that's how the relay chain matures, right? And this was a process that if you are aware that this thing is new, then you are not surprised, and it was really, really not chaotic. So I think we used a lot of resources from Parachain. Sorry for that, but that was really nice, actually. So I wouldn't say it's any. No, it wasn't really, really very chaotic.
Well, I guess I wouldn't expect anything less from a team who plans to live on Kusama for the near term future. So that's great to hear. Where can people go to find out more about KILT and everything going on? Participate? You guys have a Discord, website? Where can people go?
Well, first source is website kilt.io. Very easy. And of course, there's Kilt Protocol on Twitter, just one word, all small letters. And then there's also, we're also on Telegram, we're also on Discord, we have an Element channel for the devs, please, not everybody. Join the Element channel. Yeah, there's all the resources that you would expect are there, and we would be happy to welcome more people there. It's a very lively community, and I think it's also a very nice community. Questions get answered, and it's not like me answering everything. From our team, but also from the community, who have a lot of knowledge and just answering pretty quickly and almost 24/7. So it's so people are happy and they are saying on the Telegram channel and so on that they're happy with how this community is led, and this is very nice to hear.
That's great. Well, I have one final question, and it's the burning thing that everybody wants to know: is will you guys be producing official KILT kilts for people to purchase? And if so, where can they get those?
Yeah, that's the ultimate swag. So that would be so cool. I cannot promise, no promises. This is another Kusama thing. No promises. But maybe we start with sporans. Sporan is the name of the Kilt wallet, and this is the little purse that you wear in front of the Kilt. Maybe we'll have sporans first and kilts later. But for now, we have beautiful T-shirts.
All right. Well, when you're planning to release those, we'll have to have you back on the podcast to shill those out. Thanks again to our guest, Ingo. It was great learning more about Kilt. Make sure you like, subscribe, and review us on your favorite podcast platform, and we will be sure to bring you along as we get a backstage pass to the world of Parachain auctions. Until next time, I'm Brian Hoffman, and this has been the Parachain Auctions Podcast. This content is not financial or investment advice. All interviews and discussions are opinions only. Kraken does not endorse the accuracy of this content. None of the following information should be construed as a recommendation to support any specific Parachain project or to participate in Parachain auctions in general. See our terms of service for more information.